In this video I'm going to look at the precipitation reactions of the transition elements. So what do we mean by a precipitation reaction? Well, that's when you have transition metal ions in solution and they react with other aqueous ions and they form an insoluble precipitate. So the example that we need to know for the exam are the hydroxide precipitates of transition elements. So I'm keeping it general in this equation. So transition metal with an N plus charge, aqueous, so that could be 2 plus 3 plus, whatever. So if that was 2 plus, it's going to react with 2 hydroxide ions, again aqueous, and that's going to form MOHN, whatever the charge is, but notice the state symbol has changed to solid. So the first example we're going to look at is the precipitation reaction of copper 2 plus ions. And so you can see the blue solution in this test tube. That is aqueous copper 2 sulfate. And I'm going to introduce some hydroxide ions through this pipette and we'll see what happens. Hold that closer to the camera. You can see a pale blue solid precipitate has formed inside the test tube. The simplest way we can write this equation is on the board now. So the aqueous copper 2 plus ions are going to react with 2 hydroxide ions because of the 2 plus charge and form copper 2 hydroxide CuOH twice, and notice that state symbol is now solid. You can write the equation in a more detailed format, as you can see here. So instead of Cu2 plus aqueous, we've actually written the full hexa-aqua copper 2 plus ion, reacting with 2 hydroxide ions, and we've got this neutral complex formed. So this is actually the full formula for the copper 2 hydroxide precipitate and 2 water molecules. If we look at the precipitation reaction for aqueous cobalt 2 plus ions now, I've got this pink solution in the test tube. So these are the aqueous cobalt 2 plus ions. I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to add some hydroxide ions from this pipette and we'll have a look at the result. So you can see it's actually changed colour, this one, and not sure how well the camera's picking that up, but it's actually blue. So we've got a blue precipitate in the test tube. And there's the two equations written up there. We look at the precipitation reaction for the aqueous ion 2 plus ion now. I'm not sure how well you can see the colour of this. This is a very, very pale green colour. The solution I've got is very dilute, so the colour is not very intense. I'll put the hydroxide ions in and hopefully we'll see the precipitate. Yeah. So this is actually a green colour. So we've got a green precipitate, and that's obviously iron 2 hydroxide. And again, there's the two equations. We've got the simplified version of the equation and the more complicated version of the equation, showing the full formulae for the aqueous ion 2 plus ions and the complex formed, the hydroxide complex formed. We'll finish with the aqueous ion 3 plus ions now. So we'll add some hydroxide ions into here. So this is a sort of pale yellow colour. Hydroxide ions are going in now, and you can see it's changing colour there. We've got a sort of reddy orangey brown precipitate being formed here. Now that's obviously iron 3 hydroxide. The previous equation, the previous reaction, it was iron 2 hydroxide, which was green. iron 3 hydroxide is this sort of rusty colour, orangey brown. And again, there are the two forms of the equations for you. So that's all 4 of the precipitation reactions that you need to know for the exam.